Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Natural Sanity Mama series of interviews that I've been doing, all surrounding specifically mental health in the postpartum era. And by postpartum, I mean the first several years after you have your kids, because some people think it's just the first 6 weeks. I do not agree with that. I really believe it's kind of an ongoing thing. It's a transformation that keeps on giving. And today we have Andrea with us from naturalwisdom.ca. Did I get that right? And so we're going to talk about all things plants and fungi and making your own plants and medicines and tinctures and all of these amazing things, and talking about ways that you can support yourself. And yeah, I want to start with your story. So tell us about what got you to doing what you do now. How did you get into this? How did you start working with plants? Tell us your origin story and all the things.
Oh, wow. That's
a tall order.
To do that concisely.
Yes.
Well, I guess I went back to school for the second time. I was supposed to take a year off and work after high school because I didn't know what I wanted to do and I would be paying for it. So I wanted to be sure what that was. I had no idea. So I was working and just in that trap of life and making money and, that sort of slavery system, if you will. And then I just wanted to do something. I didn't want to be like a career. I didn't want to be a career server, or, the government jobs weren't really interesting me. And I thought, okay, well, who am I? And what do I want to do?
Let's start there.
Yeah. And I think we're in constant play with that all the time, if not by decade, certainly as an extension goal, So I knew I wanted to heal myself. And so I found the International Academy of Natural Health Sciences. Yeah. So
and where is that?
That's in Ottawa, on Carling and Forest Street, and it's been there since the 80s, I guess. So,
wow.
But it was like, it's interesting how, things are hidden until you sort of align some sort of, well, you ask for help, I guess, too. Yep. And then things just kind of boom, boom, boom.
They show themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was it? It's like your willingness to change has to outweigh your fear of change, right? So I went back to school at 28, and I was ready. I was ready to learn, but I came from a completely different background, so I had to take a vacation first and spend some of that chunk of money on a last bash hurrah. Went to Halifax and came back, and I was ready. And then I just got more fascinated by the natural world, and then you remember your past experiences, like growing up and camping for a couple of months at a time, and taking all those little courses.
Couple months, damn.
Yeah. We were outdoorsy, an outdoorsy family. And then I studied reflexology, scientific aromatherapy, which is where I picked up a lot of like the botanical names in the Latin. Loved it. And just the empowerment of nature did it first, always did it the best. Anything that we synthesize, anything that we make has a natural source. And it's this interesting, I hesitate to use the word war, but like in unsynchronicity, if you will, that we know more, or that we can outsmart nature, that we don't include ourselves as part of nature and natural beings on the one home, that it's always all been here the whole time. And that there seems to have been a concerted effort for us to forget about how to make for ourselves as part of the, economy of purchasing. And when all things have and are still made naturally, cost effectively, I mean, from tooth powders to anything that you would need to help your family. I mean, I'm not going to go to an herbalist if I need a bone set, right? That's the department.
Exactly.
That's the mechanical
bone people.
Right.
Reconstruction people.
There you go. But this illusion of feeling like disempowered from our ability to heal ourselves, no one can comment on what's going on inside of you. So your answers are found, inside of you. And whether that's putting out a request for help to, I call them the upstairs people, the UPS, and then that's, I think, where it starts. And then you just let the information come through friends and conversation. Like it very much works as a catch and release mechanism, and then everything you do find it. So yeah, I mean, it's beyond hope. It's a thing. This is how it happens, how it occurs. So as a result of going through school, I found several mentors. One of them was Martha Weber, and she was my little Yoda lady. She's in her 90s now. She lives in Dunrobin, and she had a wild edibles botany course. So I glanced onto her, and then we did rewilding nature sciences camps for kids. We did the wild edibles walks with adults for like a decade. So several mentors, and then studied with some Chinese masters for 7 years, a little bit of Ayurveda sprinkled in there as well with Dr. Gupta. So it's very addictive, right? Once
you've done a lot.
Well, yeah, I've no kids, myself.
Still, you can tell that you really are just getting deeper and deeper into that interest, right? Because you want to just keep learning. Once you find what it is that passions you, you just want to keep diving and digging and digging and digging and finding more, right? Because there's like endless amount of knowledge we can dig up.
You hit it on the head. It is endless, like microcosm, macrocosm. You can study a blade of grass quite literally for your entire life, And interestingly, I don't know if you've seen these, but you cut a blade of grass in half and you look at it under a microscope, and it's like this psychedelic smiley face.
I think you're the one that told me that.
Yeah,
that's so funny. So I gotta get an image of that.
Yeah, that'd be great. You just pop it up there, and people are like, oh, that's darling. So in these times, and especially when your hormones are all like whacking out, like you have grown a human inside of you, kind of like this alien, right? And you have to, it was the old wives' tale, a tooth per child, right? Because you're just like, they're leaching your bones. And you're this and you're that.
The depletion is real, 100%.
So give yourself credit, and also the food quality has been kind of cracked. So we're not of the generation of people that would have 12 kids. I mean, some still do, God bless them. But it's harder, I think, because of nutrient lacks and stresses and pressures. And anyway, we're going to get over and through it all, right?
Yeah.
Support, and knowledge sharing. So we'll do some courses. We'll talk about that later. What else?
What are you really excited about right now that you're working on that you want to share?
Okay, so a couple of projects, let's see, over the course. Well, I'll show you some these are chicken of the woods pickles.
Ooh.
So that was it's really simple. Edible mushroom, good for the holidays.
Beautiful.
So the nutrient density of wild foods.
Yes, let's talk about that in depth. So why do we have such a lack of nutritional density in regular foods that we will see in the grocery store, for example? And, even farmers that, try to grow organically may not necessarily have the most nutrient dense foods. And then how can we use wild edibles to supplement ourselves a little bit? So let's talk about that from your perspective and from what you've learned, because you've got a in-depth kind of knowledge of this.
Well, to put it in sort of pretty simple, easy to understand terms, we live in a garden, right? Mm-hmm. And so the trees have like black walnut trees, I personally, and this could be controversial, but I don't believe that there is a food shortage. There's a quality food shortage. And some of you have known about monocropping. This is really bad. All the chemicals and fertilizers that get sprayed, we're killing the soil. These are basically like wartime chemicals that they've repackaged into agri-food, which is, a very devastating thing. So how to supplement and take away some of that participation is to learn your wild edibles and
what many consider to be weeds, right? Like, what are weeds?
Exactly, a perspective. What's the difference between a plant and a weed? It's a judgment, really.
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Some of them need to be handled with a little care. Some of them, it's important to not take more than you need, learn how to put some of it back. And you're learning about the plant. You're having a relationship with your food. And part of that relationship is how to make them happy as well. Now, there's some things.
It's a give and take.
Right. There's a technique I call guerrilla gardening, which is to, source a plant and kind of look at what, other trees or areas or soil or conditions, and then maybe take that back to your park or home, somewhere where you're going to walk every day, and see if it does okay there. Because then you're kind of storing your wild food. You're letting nature do her thing. It's totally lazy gardening because you don't have to weed. You don't have to do anything.
So you take a plant from somewhere else and then you plant it somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And to see if it grows.
So trying to learn what conditions it likes.
What environment it likes.
There's some things you wouldn't want to introduce onto your property, like sunchokes, for instance. They can kind of take over everything. So it's good to know where they are, but not necessarily bring them into your garden. There's other things like garlic mustard makes the best pesto. Also, when you're eating wild, you start with a little bit. Because again, you might get a handful and you'll be satiated. Your body can buzz like the fuzzy channel just with the nutrients. It's like, that we've had people in the class that really liked daylilies when they're just like short, and so she would eat these like every day. And then she was having the wildest dreams, and she was tripping on daylilies. It had a mild psychoactive effect. So you can overdo something. So let's just like not take that North American
one
sort
step
of
at a
model
time.
where more is more, or more is good, and be subtle about things. Take it in.
Andrea is the one that taught me all about dandelion pops, right? The flowers. Oh my God, so good. Just fry them up and eat them. So delicious. And like every part of the dandelion is completely edible. And like we have this cultural fixation on like getting every single dandelion out of your lawn immediately, or like the end of the world will happen. It's like so ridiculous and so crazy. When I started learning more about this, how I just realized that like, the bounty is at your doorstep. Like you're literally walking on chamomile, Roman chamomile as I come out of my house, and then there's dandelion growing everywhere, like food for the bees. And then you just have to, it's just a matter of perspective. And a lot of the time where these so-called weeds are growing, the soil hasn't been depleted. The soil hasn't been turned over. The soil hasn't been overplanted on. And so that is why, right, they would have a lot more nutrients. And so,
True too, but dandelions are real nutrition hogs as well.
Right.
So I don't know if you've noticed in drought seasons where the grass is like crumbly and it's hard to walk barefoot. The only thing that's green is the dandelions, right? And so that's a great example of guerrilla gardening too, because dandelions aren't even native to Canada.
Interesting.
They were imported from Europe because they were going places and they needed to have their food with them. And it is a full body food. Dents de lion, the French call it. So lion's teeth, or pissenlit is another one. So
pissenlit,
pea the bed. So it's this kidney strengthener, liver, you name it, dandelions. So just to go back to the intro you said about the dandelion pops. You can make it as healthy as you like, or as beaver tail as you like. You're just making a little batter. So with whatever flour, could be brown rice flour, what have you, a little cinnamon, maybe a little maple syrup. And then you've got some oil. I like grapeseed oil or sunflower, safflower oil, a lighter oil. Never canola oil. That stuff's maybe good for your car, not good for human consumption. It's rapeseed, which has an awful name, so they changed it to Canadian oil, canola oil. But a big monocropper as well. So you take that dandelion, long stem, you dip it in your batter, you put it in your oil, your hot oil, and then you let it cool a little bit, and it's sweet, right? Like they're not bitter, so it's a way to
exactly. They're delicious. So good.
And you follow the season or the life cycle of the plant, right? So in the spring it's the leaves, and that really clears out your digestive system. Then it's the flower, and then they get big broad leaves when they're just catching the last light, and they're sending the energy down to the roots. So the big broad leaves make a great broth. Like if on a chilly day you want to warm yourself up, and you put the scotch down, and you just want
some dandelion.
Through and through. And that's your bouillon, that's your vegetable stock, that's your
broth.
Whatever. Your broth.
That's beautiful.
Exactly. And then it's the roots that make that sort of coffee substitute. So you're just, and that can be said for all the plants, right?
And that's just one plant, guys. One plant has all this power. It's everywhere.
And you see it now in advertisements for products like baking soda and toothpaste, or with this or that or that. We'll just scratch out all of that and just have like the actual plant bits. Your shampoo might not lather as much. But the things that make your shampoo lather are really harsh chemicals. They're engine degreasers, sodium lauryl sulfate and stuff like that. So our marketed visions of purity, white, clean, it's too much. It strips your acid mantle. It's taking more than it's giving, really.
So how do we reintroduce these plants into our life to make it less about, like what you said, like white sugar, white flour, white everything, white chemicals, white, like bleach, and more of the dirt, the plants, the root? Like, let's integrate what we're really about. Like, just thinking back, just think about before industrialization, right? Where did we originate? And I find working with plants, gardening, getting down and dirty, getting into the soil is really what takes you to that place. It like truly roots you and grounds you. And working with land and working with plants is so important. It's unlike anything else. Like, it truly, like, I never feel as inspired and happy to be tired as I am working on my garden. Like, it's truly unique experience.
Yeah.
And
forest bathing, garden bathing.
Yes.
Like I said,
Getting into nature.
Yeah, I'm not a gardener per se. I'm learning, but there's many ways to introduce plants into your life through tea format, tincture format. I say, choose one or two that you find attractive, and then learn about them, because they're showing up to you for a reason. It took me a long time to develop a good relationship with stinging nettle. I thought, you bite. Like, there's other things, but incredibly enough, she's self-anecdotal. So you cut the stem on your sting, you dab it on, and gone. So they all have their sides, and
personalities.
Exactly. They're just little beings. And they want you to spend time with them and get to know them. And, you can bathe with them. You can have them under your pillow. You can just hold a piece under your tongue, and have a nap or a meditation. So
get to know one plant. And then another. And I love, when I did my doula course, that was the very first time that I was introduced to that concept of, having a brew of just one plant and sitting with it and like feeling what it does to your body and allowing it to nourish you, and seeing if that's your ally or maybe that's not your ally, like Carlos Castaneda, like those books all about how you can have a plant that's an ally in your life, a plant that can walk with you. And, in Carlos Castaneda books, that was hallucinogenics, but, it can be like nettle, or it can be like a red raspberry leaf. Like, for me, I always keep coming back to the red raspberry leaf. Like, it's probably because, the childbearing years, it's a very important one for that. But definitely, like, when I learned about that concept of just like having the one herb at a time, I really love that. You get to know that plant.
Yeah, and we don't want to rush things, and it's okay. Like, you might feel really attached to a plant, and then all of a sudden it just turns on you. Like, it tastes awful,
Yes.
You don't have to be stubborn through that. It's okay. That relationship will swing back around.
Yes.
Or, let that one go. Let somebody else come in.
It's like a friend who just needs a little bit of time.
We'll break.
We'll
like,
break from you
for a while, and it's time to take a new dance partner. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. I love that. I want to talk about medicinal mushrooms a little bit, and a lot of us have seen this kind of explosion in the market, right? Medicinal, like reishi shakes, and they're in protein powders now, and chagais, and all of these little coffee packets, and like fake coffee packets. And it's kind of been sort of I don't want to use the word trivialized, but it's kind of like in this fad kind of mode right now. But then I'm also afraid that the real benefits of these mushrooms are maybe getting lost, because what's happening is they're putting like a tiny, tiny amount in like a hot chocolate. They're putting a tiny amount of medicinal mushrooms in there. And I'm like, I don't know if that's doing anything. It's like just to say that it's got medicinal mushrooms in it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to talk about from your experience, working with mushrooms and identifying mushrooms, and how did you get good at it, and how do you enjoy working with mushrooms the most? Andrea was the first one to tell me about, the movie that's on Netflix now, Fantastic Fungi. It wasn't at that time, but now it is. So clearly this awareness about the importance of fungi is growing. And in that film, they talk about all this incredible research about psilocybin and how, these people that have had depression for years and years and years literally have one trip and they are pretty much healed. Like, it's pretty incredible what mushrooms can do. So yeah, I just wanted to know from your perspective, working with them and around them and, growing medicinal mushrooms, like how, if you have anything to say about that.
Okay, so to unpack those questions a little one by one, yes. I'm sure we've all been around and noticed through different perspectives the fad aspect of marketing. And like you were saying about the hot chocolate. Okay, so you may or may not have whatever amount of mushroom in there, but what else have you got? You've got coca, which isn't like a coca ceremony, coca experience. It's like chocolate, which is a devastating industry as well, but whatever. I won't steal your chocolate. But and sugar. So it's like you might be putting, this little guy of good in there, counter, all this other stuff. So I think they're introductory. I won't call out any company names, but I mean, caffeine is a leecher of, your bones and adrenal gland exhaustion and whatever. But hey, everybody loves a cup of coffee. It's your warm
cup of Joe.
So, wake up one little bit at a time as you wish. I'm a big believer in habit modification. So you take on one thing until that's a habit, and then you try the next thing. Like, you don't want to okay, that's it.
Overwhelm yourself. Yeah.
My life today. And you're just going to set yourself up for doom and failure. Right. So, okay. What you asked about some things that have been attracting me recently. Chaga, many years love affair with chaga. It's an adaptogenic. It's an immunomodulator. It's really, really great for seasonal transition times. So now, and you just need a little square. I'm sorry, I should have brought one over. We'll make many, many liters of tea. And then, the Siberians and the Innu, pretty similar, life modes of living, but the Siberians seem to live hardier and longer. And the only real difference they were finding was that they just had chaga on the stove all the time.
Interesting.
Mushroom of immortality, et cetera, et cetera. Reishi too, Ganoderma lucidum, but we have Canadian reishi here if you want to do more local. Yeah, so locavore style. So we have all these things. I'm kind of messing around with cordyceps right now.
Wow.
So yeah.
Is that pickled?
It's in booze. Yeah.
Wow.
So
beautiful.
It's a tincture. Yeah.
And so you're going to use the liquid, and then you're just going to get rid of the mushrooms themselves.
Or I could maybe stew them up,
Sprinkle them
in something. Yeah. So they're great for energy. I don't know about all you, but if you're Canadian and winter is coming, you know, it's like we're sleepy bears, right?
Yes.
Like, you know, to get up and 9 to 5
Yes.
it is kind of against nature's way, really.
Mm. Thanks for saying that. I am not a morning person.
No, it's our yin and yang. You know, we need to kind of come back into nature, and don't guilt yourself if you need more sleep. You're going through significant changes just to adapt to like an 100-degree temperature differential from summer to winter.
Absolutely.
We go plus 40 to minus 40, and the body needs time to just adjust on top of everything else.
And so reishi, is it reishi that's an adaptogen, or is one of them?
Most mushrooms are like, as a blanket statement, I'll just say that another interesting thing is that we're more like mushrooms than mushrooms are to the world. So say
that again.
Okay, so we're more like mushrooms, like humans to mushrooms, than in close relation than mushrooms are to the plant world. And so we breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. They do too. So when they're like beep, 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 talking to the trees and the root systems and making their deals and letting them know what's coming down the pipe, they're breathing for the trees. They're trading. It's like it's like this underground. They refer to it as a wood wide web in Fantastic Fungi, which I love. You know, it's like an internet of the forest. And that each step we're stepping on, they know where we are. Like there's 3 miles.
It is wild.
Yeah. And it's a great movie to introduce the concept of mushrooms. As a total, like there's mushroom fabrics and leathers, mushrooms that, like the oyster mushrooms, that will make a oil slick, like dirty pile of poly whatevers, and digest it and make it edible.
It's insane.
So they are the decomposers and the growers, and we can eat them. Like they're just wonderful. They're karma free. Okay, mushrooms are karma free. They eat dead things. They're just like little Buddhas, and they're fantastic. I think they're the oldest thing on the earth. They actually were root systems to plants before plants developed their own root systems.
It's beautiful.
And there's too many. Like there's the slime fungus. There's like so many worlds. Like some of them look like they're underwater. Some look like they're coral. Like it's really, really wild. So all that is to say too, some mushrooms will help us grow new neural pathways. So your lion's mane edible mushroom tastes delicious. I don't know if you like lobster, but yes. The psilocybin cubensis species, there's over 200 of those varieties. So big fan of microdosing. To introduce, you don't want to experience certain benefits. You don't have to get like other benefits. Really,
what is microdosing? Let's do a definition.
Okay. A quick definition of microdosing is an imperceptible amount. So a sub-threshold level. So threshold being where you might get some effects. So some are desirable, and you like for seasonal affect disorder, for depression, anxiety, and no one can tell you what that dose is. You can start at 0.1, so 100, a gram being 1, and 0.1 being 100 milligrams. And then you can ladder from there. There's tons of resources online, from wanting to grow your own, so you have your own medicine cabinet. There's lots of integration, so that's important too. Like you can get these things online, but then what do you do after, or who do you share with, you know? So there's a lot of free online integration circles. So there's Ottawa Psychedelic Education Network has something. So they're on Meetup.
Amazing.
There's the San Francisco Psychedelic Society, you know, and on and on and on. But if that makes you nervous, and there's Plant Parenthood. So Planned Parenthood.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I got to offer all those links when I post the interview.
Yeah, lots of resources there. So I say that it's very important to be nervous. It's very important to be skeptical. That's part of it, you know, of a journey of learning, listening, and understanding. But there's a lot that we can do. You know, if you don't necessarily need that. There's many plants and ways and wisdoms.
Yes.
And things that you can be comfortable with. So, okay, let's crack into something here. I've got, for example, this is a Canadian company. These are great products. Canadian Forest Tree Essences. So do you see that?
Yeah, it's a little bit off to the side, but you could put it more in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So what's in there?
So these are body synergies. So these are like, it's homeopathic. So I don't know if you might be familiar with Bach flower essences.
Yeah, 100%.
So these are tree essences.
Okay.
So they're deeper and it just builds up. Yeah. So
they're tinctures. They're homeopathic.
They're homeopathic. So there's no actual here, I had the French going, so we're bilingual.
Guilt and forgiveness.
Woo!
Love that.
We need that. So to help you process with those, I'm a huge fan of journaling. Buy yourself a nice, beautiful journal.
That's a beautiful one. Yes.
Yeah. Because
that definitely helps with processing.
It does, you know, it's like an exorcism, and it's not like typing. Typing doesn't work as well as your own writing. Yeah. And then it's like, whoa, like I actually feel when I haven't journaled in a while, like my mood is irritable. Like I need like to get it out.
It's a form of self-expression. It's like anything else, singing or dancing, or, you know, it's like getting that energy out, getting it moving. It's like through words, right?
Well, and it's emotional release too.
Yeah, 100%.
You can be 3,000% honest with your journal.
Exactly.
You know? Exactly. And then watch how your handwriting changes as you like kind of mellow out.
It starts so perfect, and it's like.
Well, it depends. It depends. Are you getting madder as you're writing, or are you starting mad?
Sloppier.
Yeah. Well, don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Okay. Other things that I wanted to show you. Okay. Essential oils, my first love, right? So here's a great brand that isn't expensive. This is Elixir.
It's hard to see.
Grade. Is it?
Bring it a little further away.
A little further. Like
what's the brand name?
Elixir.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send you that one too. Anyway, these are chemotyped. So it's a medicinal grade. So I use this for making suppositories, capsules, sprays, nasal inhalers, right? So you're all olfactory.
Super important. We just got over a cold. Our whole family just got over a cold.
Right.
And I find mints and, you know, eucalyptus and all that.
Yeah.
To clear the sinuses.
You're not even draining anymore. You're just like, you know, your eyeballs, and you're like, and so you just take one of these little guys. It's an inhaler, right? Like they make Olbas, and Vicks used to have one, but now it's all synthesized. Well, you can just put your oils in the little cotton thing inside here, and then you just, and it's just like, you can.
So simple.
You can see. Yeah. But, you know, we've been trained out of it, you know, so we need to get it back, especially if, you know, certain medical practices are being sketchy maybe, you know,
Yeah.
or they don't know. You make an appointment with a doctor, you get to ask one question. Well, how are you supposed to get the full story? Like, you don't have time with your doctor anymore. If you even have a doctor, right?
That's right.
And so we can do it ourselves to an extent, like I said.
Exactly. And that's me and Andrea are going to be hosting a workshop coming up on the 4th and 5th, but I believe there's other locations for other dates in December. So if you're very interested, please contact us. We'll give you the details that way. Maybe in the future, there'll be some virtual ones as well. Still figuring that out, but yeah, so that's where Andrea's trying to bring back this knowledge, right? Try to make it an easy conversation to have, like, how do you make this? How do you make that? Let's band together and get some of this knowledge back. Why not? A lot of it is quite simple.
Yes, it's accessible. It's affordable. It works. Like, so chaga in the sunscreen here. So here's like, this is a cannabis balm, right? There's 463 different chemical constituents in cannabis plant. You don't need the THC if you don't want. Like, you can really...
that rub, literally Arthur's my partner's grandmother cannot live without that rub-a-dub-dub. Like, honestly, the arthritis pain, it's the only thing that works for her. She was ordering like 6 at a time. Actually works so well. And I've been using it as well. Like in the winter, just put it on everything that's dry and painful. And yeah, I've definitely been having wrist issues from like carrying so many babies and stuff like that. So
yeah,
incredible. And I would love to talk about, the hard shit. So I want to talk about you trying to get your stuff to market and having roadblocks and red tape and what that was about. And I want people to actually realize that the potential for a lot more healing modalities and a lot more natural medicines to be out there and be in the stores is very high. Like, there's a lot of people producing incredible stuff, but there's blockades. A lot of the stuff cannot come to market. So Andrea definitely has, I'm sure, a story to tell about that. And I want people to actually know how hard it is to get a natural product to market compared to some not natural products. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I guess money breeds money, but also I didn't know at the beginning. I was foraging and I didn't want to use DEET, but you have to use something going into the bush in the spring, or you come out like a Carrie movie. Like, it's just crazy. So, and I tried a lot of the working in health food stores. I tried a lot of the natural stuff, but it wasn't effective or it wasn't long lasting. So I developed one, and I had this great class to try it on. And so it took me several years. I wanted to put something out that was effective and longer lasting. And then I was selling it at a festival in Calabogie Blues and Rib Fest, and somebody reported me to the PMRA. So the PMRA is Pest Management Regulatory Association. Which, because I had also noticed too that you could never find a natural insect repellent from year to year to year. They would just take them off the shelves. It was like government theft. They would say, well, it's September, take that stuff down. It's not legal, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, how do I regulate, or how do I get this registered? And I collected Agriculture Canada. They had to find me through Agriculture Canada and say that I was being impossible. And I thought, no, I just want to, I'd rather make 5% of something than 100% of nothing. I really would like this product to be out and be sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had some problems, and I was collecting horror stories from companies like Green Beaver and Nuco and all these other companies that were much bigger than me, saying that, nope, they just exhaust you of time, money, it's impossible. And this was, 2014, 2015, I believe. Space-time continuum questions, not my forte, but I realized that I was up against Monsanto.
Holy geez.
So insect repellent is like
something so simple.
And and I went to this little kangaroo court session because it was a whole big thing. I was going to go on Dragon's Den. I had a lawyer to help fight this. I was trying to rally these companies, but they were scared. They were quashed bugs already. So they said, "Oh, good luck. Let us know how it goes," type of thing. So I was a little disheartened about that. And I did some TV interviews. And that's when I discovered that, media wasn't it wasn't working with me, and that there was something really deeply wrong with what was going on. So in this little court session, I had no representation. My lawyer had passed away. So it was like a series of unfortunate events. Yeah. But I had all the science, because all the products that I was using were Canadian or had MSDA charts from Canadian companies. And then they were attacking neem. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. So the next day I brought products like, here's neem in toothpaste, here's neem internally, here's neem as a face and hair thing. So what's the problem with neem? Like, I'm spraying it on skin, like this is internal. So they didn't have any logic to the argument. They just did not want this product to exist.
Wow. And so the courts basically said what?
Well, I got my fine diminished from an original, I think it was 8,000 or 10,000 down to 2,000, because and basically the lawyer had threatened, anyway, it was just, I was really shocked at how it all unrolled and went down. It was, I didn't understand it, right? It didn't make any natural or logical sense.
It's a discovery of sorts that you made. You made a discovery that you were not planning on making, that this is like hugely unwanted. Competition for bug repellent is unwanted.
And I'm like, I'm not big. I'm not a threat financially. So what kind of threat am I? Right.
Exactly.
So then I just, had to go to a fallback position, but I still have not paid that fine. I have no intention of paying that fine, because according to me, that's an admittance of guilt. And I don't want to set any kind of legal precedence should this come to pass. And I think that, we're experiencing things that are proving that to a larger audience, that the media and the governments, Health Canada is no longer healthy, nor very Canadian. Civil servants aren't being civil or serving us, so what's happening? Like, why are they authority, I guess? And I have a whole section of friends that are into, Rob Whitefeather and Ubuntu. And anyway, so to reclassify ourselves and to become more independent, and how to defend against these increasing threats to our sovereignty and our, our nation.
So let's talk about that. Like, what do we do? What can every person do to, I guess, to move forward and to protect their families, but also to to know how to have access to, their own medicines and to move forward, not from a place of fear, right? Because it's a very fearful time right now, because even I cannot actually picture what the world is going to look like 5-10 years from now. This is the first time in my life that I felt that way because of every new development every single week, right? So how do we move forward from a place of, in a more positive kind of way, I guess, and then taking everything that we spoke about now into consideration with that, right? Because we are now almost having to make our own everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Counterculture.
So food security, medicine security, and just mental and emotional security. So
how do we get that?
Well, what we're doing now, right? We're banding together, we're grouping together, we're resourcing together. And I would say go on a harsh media diet. Like I myself, as an entrepreneur, have taken myself off Facebook, which is a very strange thing, but I feel great for it. But it's weird because, I only got Facebook, I don't know, however many years ago, but it's such an all-encompassing thing.
It really is. Yeah.
To pull yourself out of it is also interesting. So yeah, these little mental break diets, and then also, whether it's breath work, meditation, chanting, taking half an hour twice a day if you can, to just feel gratitude. And I know that sounds hard and potentially cheesy, but I've been doing the Stoic method, which is instead of comparing yourself to better times or better situations or others that seem to have it better, there's people that have it a hell of a lot worse. To put it bluntly, we're not meth head prostitutes in Cape Town or something, so we're doing okay. And I was thinking too, for my own practice as well, I used to have an online chanting practice for a few years, 3 days a week as a dedication. And just have
a little practice, have something to ground you every once in a while, or on a regular basis is better, obviously.
Yeah. So journaling is super key for me. Finding what it is for you. Breath work really helped me out last winter. I'm sure you guys are feeling like this winter is going to be another big hammer, right? Getting to get with the food thing. So food is ridiculously expensive right now. So if you can just get a meal, whatever that might be, an eggplant lasagna or something, and then divvy it up into portions, and then get together once a week with girlfriends or other families and swap it. So you're not eating the same lasagna 7 days a week, but you're also getting your social time. You're sharing stories, resources. So there are little things, if you need to have a crying day, let that whole, ride that whole wave out and through. Don't let it trap and ramble, be human.
Sometimes you just need a good cry. There's no shame in that game.
Hot bath, break from kids, or get your kids, together learning things. There are a lot of resources I'd like to share. We had children's festivals this summer. So yeah, getting the tribe together in a community fashion to like-minded individuals that they compassion for the self, compassion for others, compassion for the time. Just because we fear the future doesn't mean that it's going to be like it's bad. I mean, everybody wanted a change, and now
Yes.
everybody wants to go back to normal. Like what?
Yes.
No.
We want something else.
Yeah,
We want to
something else.
upgrade.
Exactly. So let's manifest what that upgrade is.
Yes.
And instead of like worrying
Brainstorm. What world do you want your kids to live in?
and manifest, envision that future, like playing with, like we used to capture light bugs, fireflies, and make lanterns,
Yes.
but there's all the insect species are kind of dying off, right? But then during whatever the close down, we'd have deer on the street. Like nature was taking it back, right? Oceans were getting better, like everything was improving with just that little diet, so it's a good thing. We can still live off grid and have hot tubs, like we have the technology.
Exactly.
So, there's biodesic geodomes that are very affordable housing. There's lots, you guys. So
yeah,
you don't have to give up too much comfort. You can take, like, again, little baby steps, little diets. Like, so, okay, this year it's learning about gardening or wild edibles and something exciting to see in the spring, and like keep your love alive, watch inspiring things. No more horror movies.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Take a break from that. That's a big one. That's a big one that I can't help to get my partner to stop doing. I'm like, why are you still watching zombie movies and playing zombie games? Like, I cannot. Like, why? That needs to stop.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so
100%.
Into the love zoo, out of the bitter barn. Paying attention to your body, right? We're very mental people, and we need to sit with discomfort and let it ride, and then it transmutes, like there's no good or bad. It's just a period of nowness that is happening.
That speaks to me a lot about with regards to birth. It's very much that. That's how I feel, when people kind of like talk about, the pain or whatnot. I'm just like, but it's just now. You're just in the now, and then in the next moment, you're going to be out of that. It's just when you're in it, it's hard, but you just ride it out like a wave.
But also, like, even perceptively, like, pain is a bad thing. Pain is not a bad thing. It is just a signal, and it's letting you know something.
Yeah.
And then you can put your attention towards it and like release it, or there's a lot of ways. Hopefully we've touched on some points of interest that you're like, I'd like to know more, and
100%.
certainly would love you to come and talk to me, come to a class, very affordable, $50.
How do people find you?
Yep. So naturalwisdom.ca, naturalwisdom@live.ca is my email. If you want to register for a class, I'm going to try and do them every weekend till Christmas. We can make everything for Christmas, totally affordable, life skills,
useful gifts.
Yeah. And you'll be able to make and share with anybody and everybody. I'd say kids, if they want to participate, are welcome. I'd say, 8 or older for the ones with like heat and things like of that nature. Yeah, so we're going to do the first weekend at your place, and then my place in Wakefield. I'll do some private courses if you like for your little group. Could come to you, you could come to me. So yeah, reach out.
And if If you're in Ottawa, then definitely inquire about the in-person stuff. And if you're not in Ottawa, definitely let us know if you're interested in a workshop, because Andrea, if there's enough interest, she will host a live workshop. But, there needs to be people coming forward saying, I want to do this live, right? And then we'll figure something out. Definitely, yeah, contact us. Contact Andrea. You have her information, and I'm going to put everything down below the interview so you can have all the info there. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you had some amazing takeaways from this. We talked about a lot of amazing stuff. This is stuff that I can talk about all day. So yeah, and if you have certain inquiries or questions, don't be afraid to ask them. No matter what they are, we are open to talking about it all. Although Andrea is the expert for sure. I'm just a dabbler.
We're all an expert.
We're all experts in something. Yeah.
In waiting, in learning. Yeah.
All right. And what is one thing you want to leave everybody with? Maybe a thought or a quote, or what you want to leave with?
I would say to follow nature's way, you flourish, and to go against nature, you finish.
Oh, like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.
Bye.